Hello, and welcome back to the show. You know the drill, so much has happened since we last spoke, so grab your coffee and get ready because we are jumping right into everything that went on in Hollywood over the past week. Here's what you missed: some ups and downs, as always, in Hollywood relationships. Some great news is that this week, Abigail Breslin got engaged to her boyfriend, Ira, and you know her from things like Little Miss Sunshine, Zombieland, and Definitely Maybe. They've been together for 5 years and shared the news on social media on Tuesday. Speaking of 5 years, it looks like Ben Stiller used his time isolated in quarantine to miss his ex-wife, Christine Taylor. They split 5 years ago, but initially got married in 2000 before playing an on-screen couple in Zoolander. They were together for 17 years before splitting, and in a recent interview, Ben said the pandemic really brought them back together and things are wonderful for them. Unfortunately, the pandemic was not great for many, if not most, relationships, especially in Hollywood. That seems to be true for country singer Sam Hunt and his pregnant wife, Hannah Lee Fowler. They got married in 2017 and are expecting their first child in just 3 months. But this week they let us know that they're going their separate ways. Neither of their reps have commented yet, but the divorce was cited as irreconcilable differences. Hopefully they're able to co-parent well. Tension is also strong between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, as always, who are back in the courts suing each other for a new reason. Brad is suing her for their French vineyard. He says she sold her interest in the winery without his knowledge and wants to make a show of this by requesting trial by jury. At this point, it's hard to tell if they really care about the things they're suing each other over or if they just can't get away from each other. How very Mr. and Mrs. Smith of them. On a brighter note, there's a ton of baby news this week. That's one thing that we're going to hear for a while because you know that these celebrities got bored in quarantine. Well, it's official. Jennifer Lawrence is a mom. Name and gender of the baby are both unknown as I write this, but if we know anything about Jennifer Lawrence, we know that we likely won't get this info until she slips up in a joking way. This is the first child that her and her husband Cook Maroney share. They've been married since 2019, so a big congrats to these new parents. Another congrats is due for E!News' Morgan Stewart, who welcomed her second baby with husband Jordan McGraw. Jordan McGraw is Dr. Phil's son, and she has a 1-year-old daughter named Ro. Just a day after her daughter's birthday, she had baby number 2, a boy, who they named Gray, which I absolutely love. Also expecting a child is Michael Buble and his wife, Luisana. They have 3 kids together already, and they announced this in an epic way. It came in the form of his new music video. His music video premiered for I'll Never Not Love You, and in the end, they are all leaving a store with their 3 kids. She turns around and shows her bump. We love a unique reveal. Also, former Victoria's Secret angel Adriana Lima is expecting her 3rd child, but her first with her boyfriend Andre. Her reveal was also unique. She made a TikTok account, and her first ever video was a prank video with her boyfriend, except it wasn't a prank, obviously, it was real. This, of course, started a new TikTok trend because that's just what happens when a supermodel makes a TikTok. Switching over to some music and TV news, the Biebs has tested positive for COVID, but does seem to be doing okay and did have to miss out on performing in Vegas for the Justice World Tour, so I'm sure fans were definitely disappointed. Also testing positive for COVID this week was Queen Elizabeth. This news has sparked a huge internet conspiracy that she's already passed away. There are a couple of reasons for this. The first being that she's going to turn 96 this year, which is pretty old, but also that she's really scaled back from public appearances. We haven't seen her address the people in a very long time, and she's been hospitalized twice in the recent months, though we don't know what for. And though TikTok and Twitter are falling deep into a rabbit hole over this, it's likely untrue because a fake case of COVID would be a horrible PR cover-up. Also, the palace is planning a big 70th anniversary party for her. That's going to be a lot of money and a lot of time wasted if she's not there to attend. There are other celebrities reaching great age milestones this week. Rihanna turned 34 on 2/20 and celebrated with a small gathering. Olivia Rodrigo turned 19 that same day, and Millie Bobby Brown turned 18, which sparked a horrific countdown on social media from creepy guys counting down the minutes until they can legally speak about her sexually. And this, my friends, is why fame is not all great. We need to bring back Cara Cunningham to make a YouTube video titled "Leave Millie Alone." In other news, after a long battle with illness, the Wendy Williams show is officially canceled. The show ran for 13 seasons, which is a very long time. Her show and TV personality have divided a lot of people, as she often made controversial comments that rubbed people the wrong way. But after many guest hosts to fill her shoes, while she tried to get better, her production company officially pulled the plug, and her time slot will be replaced. Speaking of talk show hosts, Rosie O'Donnell and Priyanka Chopra are making news with a very weird beef. Apparently, Rosie thought that Priyanka was the daughter of Deepak Chopra, and Priyanka took offense to this, saying that she's worked really hard to build her name and told Rosie to Google her. And I'm sure Rosie was very embarrassed by this. She did issue an apology via TikTok. But another huge shot of serotonin comes from the news that our girl Britney Spears is writing a tell-all book. From her mouth to God's ears, we will get this piping hot tea, unfiltered. This deal is worth more than $15 million, a record-breaking amount right behind the Obamas, none of which will go to her family, thank God. For this, we might have to thank Jamie Lynn, her sister, who wrote a book which urged Britney to tell her side of the story. And though there are a lot of great headlines this week, I do need to take a moment to talk about a few serious things. First, I want to give an honorable mention to NightBirde from AGT. Her real name is Jane, and she won our hearts with her voice and her story. She passed away this week from cancer at age 31. We can learn a lot from Jane's attitude, so I encourage you to watch her audition for America's Got Talent, which is linked in my show notes. Also, I want to take a moment to talk about what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine and why we should care about it. Earlier this week, Russia invaded Ukraine by land, air, and sea via missile strikes. First airports, then military bases were hit. But within days, it's become a full-scale invasion. A little backstory might be helpful. They've always had conflict, but tensions between them have been very high this last year. Ukraine's president wanted to join NATO, and this really pissed off Putin. Biden was watching and said if Russia were to invade, he would enact severe sanctions which would hurt their economy. He thought that this would help keep them at bay. And just like in 2014, Putin did not listen. Instead, he attacked. At the time of this recording, dozens and dozens have been killed by the attacks. By the time it reaches your ears, likely hundreds will have been killed. Instead of thinking that this doesn't affect you, consider what you can do to help. You can donate to their Red Cross or to United Nations Children's Fund. You can support local journalism as well as using reliable sources like New Voice of Ukraine and Kyiv Post. Also, you can show your support by following accounts like Stand with Ukraine and Ukrainians in Solidarity. Lastly, as the situation continues to develop, it's likely that there will be protests. If you decide to join a protest to show your support, please remember to keep it peaceful. Lastly, to end on a positive note, 24-year-old Sofia Jirau made history as the first ever model with Down syndrome to be cast by Victoria's Secret. And though we shouldn't be congratulating these big companies on being inclusive, they definitely just should be, I wanted to take a moment to shine a light on her for getting the wheels turning and making a positive impact on the community by becoming the face for the underrepresented. And that's it for this week's headlines. Don't forget you can read more details on each. If you see any headlines you want covered or have thoughts on this week's, DM me on Instagram at @MegInTheMorningPodcast. And I'll be back next week to catch you up on the latest pop culture news.